we have a great panel here. We have three clinicians who have studied from Calicut Medical College. We have an entrepreneur, Santhosh, who has spun off companies in the genomic space, multiple companies, including Genome. So we look at multiple aspects of genomics and how it is adding to the narrative in culture and literature and many other aspects. So just to introduce genomic side, because there may be participants who may not be from the scientific side. So genomics is largely the study of all organisms' genes, the genome, including interactions of those genes with each other, with its environment. So life originated on Earth about 3.5 billion years ago, and the chemical molecule that nature chose for life to be based was DNA, which is deoxyribonucleic acid, which is built using 4 bases, which is adenine, guanine, cytosine, and thymine. So this is the basic biology that we would have studied during our 10th days. And genes, the segments of DNA that code for proteins, are the instruction manuals for the development of biological organisms. And the fundamental aspects of genomics research include decoding those instructions, which is DNA sequencing, which is done by multiple labs in the country. And again, pioneering work happened with CRISPR technology, etc. And discovering how and when they function, the bioinformatics, which allows researchers to understand the programming behind our biology and how genes encode basic cellular functions, which will help us to prevent diseases and again some of the hormonal based problems, etc. So Kerala Genome Data Center, also a few words about Kerala Genome Data Center. With an initial investment of 500 crore, Kerala government is pioneering one of the few projects in the country, which is a strategic initiative under KDISC. KDISC is Kerala Development Innovation Strategic Council. It's a think tank working in multiple innovation projects. So we'll carve out a prominent space for Kerala in the global genomics and bioinformatics sector, fostering a knowledge-driven economy, which will also impact the bioeconomy, One Health, and many other public health aspects. This was inaugurated by Honorable Chief Minister of Kerala, Shri Pinarayi Vijayan, on March 13, 2023. This initiative promises several advantages to researchers, entrepreneurs, and the general public. For researchers, it serves as a rich reservoir of genomic data, facilitating advanced studies in various fields such as medicine, agriculture, and environmental science. It is again expected to catalyze innovations in healthcare, offering personalized medicine, and again potential therapies. So my first question will be to Mr. Sam Santhosh. What is the idea behind KGDC? Because you are a strategic advisor to KGDC and it's one of your ideas you have pitched to the government and currently the project is running. So how did it start? Second, what are your long-term vision for KGDC in the next 5 to 10 years? Where would you want to take Kerala in this entire state of genomics?
Sure. Hello. Yeah. Thanks, Raju. Kerala Genome Data Center is a project by KDISC, Kerala Development and Innovation Strategy Council. It's a think tank for the Kerala government. So I had come to they had brought me in as an advisor from the industry to KDISC. And the mandate for KDISC, the Kerala government's mandate for KDISC was to how in the long run we will turn Kerala into a knowledge economy. Because Kerala, because of many constraints in size, land, and other resources, we will not be able to develop the way maybe Gujarat or Tamil Nadu or Andhra Pradesh develop. So we can't, we have to come up with a different model. So that is why the government decided that we have to make Kerala's economy a knowledge economy. Because that doesn't need much power, much land and all those type of resources that are typically constrained. So while we were discussing in the meeting and discussing ideas, I suggested this idea that focusing on a vast, large amount of knowledge, which has not been really understood or made use of. That is in this Kerala's genomic data, Kerala's unique genomic data. Sorry. Yeah, so Kerala, why is Kerala's genomic data so unique? That is just like the reason why Kerala is so beautiful, right? Kerala has, because of its geography, geology, and many of the other factors, Kerala is a landmass, a small strip of land between the Arabian Sea and the Western Ghats, turns out to be a beautiful place for nature to create biodiversity. So Kerala is one of the most unique biodiverse regions in the world, and that means it has very unique genetic data. The biodiversity is created by the genomic data. And even for humans, Kerala has a long ancient history. As people moved out from Africa and came down to various parts of the world, in India, one stream came through the west coast, and Kerala was one of the early places to be occupied by the Homo sapiens, as far as the Indian continent goes. And from here, the people then migrated slowly over the coast, even up to Andamans, and after Andamans up to Australia. So that was a path. So we are one of the early populations in Kerala. And subsequently, though we mixed with the various other later waves of population that came, still there are many, many groups in Kerala which are very unique. Tribal groups are more than 36 in Kerala. So there's a lot of very unique human genomic data also that is there in Kerala. So the concept of a Kerala Genome Data Center was to have one single place where we have a very powerful AI-driven high performance cluster of hardware which will enable people to work on this genetic data, provided we are able to take the genetic data from all these organisms and slowly put them into the computer. So that is two parts of the Kerala Genome Data Center. First part is set up the hardware. Second part is to work with the various institutions in Kerala and generate the genomic data of various organisms and upload it into the data center. That would then enable all of us to access the data and use it in various means, I think, which we will go into later in the session. Thank you.
Thanks, Sam. My next question will be to Dr. Vinod Scaria. So you have been a clinician, turned scientist, and mostly working in currently genomics and bioinformatics. So the question would be, for mainstream public, how is genomic studies important, especially in clinical medicine? So can you make it easy for the lay public to understand how doctors can use, or even doing a genetic testing is important? For example, during a COVID, we have seen that different variations of the COVID virus, which became very mainstream, right? So the second wave, third wave, multiple variations of the virus. So can you give us more examples into how genomics is revolutionizing the disease surveillance and a lot of other things?
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Raju. So the basic concept of genetics and genomics in clinical setting was largely positioned from our understanding and teaching about rare Mendelian genetic disorders. While we think of them as extremely rare genetic disorders, by sequencing many more patients and many more individuals in the general public, now we know that some of them are not as rare as we think about. Now, to put numbers, approximately 5% of the population today have a genetic disease, and I'd say almost all of those genetic diseases have a management plan or a treatment currently available. But since people do not readily test apparently normal individuals like you or me for a genetic mutation, very often these genetic mutations get undiagnosed, underdiagnosed, and therefore we lose considerable amount of time before they get diagnosed. To put numbers, the best examples would be familial cancer. Any given population, the prevalence of familial cancer syndromes, around 80 odd genes, would be 1.5%. That's a very large number, considering that in this room, that would mean that there are probably 2 people with a familial cancer syndrome, another 2 people with a cardiovascular disease genetic variant, either cardiomyopathy or cardiac channelopathy. All of these have a very well-set protocol for early diagnosis and management. The second aspect is, of course, in the area of pathogens, which is very evident from the COVID era, where genomics has become the mainstay in our ability to not just understand the pathogen, because for the first time in the history, there was a large outbreak that was identified, catalogued, and informed to the world in less than 6 weeks. Because the traditional approaches of microbiology typically used to take months, if not years. And beyond that, genetic surveillance has enabled us to also understand what are the new variants emerging, and that has really significantly changed the way public health action is based upon, or it largely contributes to the evidence for public health action. And I think these two are the best examples where genomics can impact practically everybody.
One more follow-up question. Especially since there are new medications coming to the market, do you also think some of these gene markers, something should be tested before those medicines should be given? Because there is a lot of weight loss drugs coming to the market, right? So what do you think about most of these things?
Yeah, so this is an emerging new area called pharmacogenomics, which deals with genetic variations in our body and its ability to metabolize and the action of those drugs. In other words, different people getting the same drug at the same dose may not have the same outcomes because our body metabolizes them very differently. Now, apart from this, there are also genetic variations which could influence this, and this entire area is called pharmacogenomics. Now, increasingly, given the new concept of weight loss drugs which are gaining ground, I mean, I'm not sure a lot of people do not really understand that there is a boxed label warning on the drug which essentially says that people who have a RET mutation, for example, should not take this particular drug or contraindicated in this particular case because they would develop thyroid cancer eventually. Now, genetic testing of RET is something that is very readily available, much cheaper than the cost of the drug per se, and if we can improve our awareness among the public and among the clinical community, I think we can avoid a lot of people getting medullary thyroid cancer for lack of knowledge.
Yeah. The next question is to Dr. Mubarack Sani. Dr. Mubarack, public health ഒരുപാട് ആക്റ്റീവ് ആയിട്ടുള്ള ഡോക്ടറാണ്. ഹീസ് ഫ്രം MES മെഡിക്കൽ കോളേജ്, കമ്മ്യൂണിറ്റി മെഡിസിൻ HOD ആണ്. സോ സാറിനോട് ഹീസ് വെരി ആക്റ്റീവ് ഇൻ ശാസ്ത്ര സാഹിത്യ പരിഷത്ത്, അതുപോലെ പബ്ലിക് ഹെൽത്ത് ഇനീഷ്യേറ്റീവ്സിൽ. സോ സാർ, പബ്ലിക് ഹെൽത്തിൽ എത്രത്തോളം നമുക്ക് ജീനോമിക്സ് യൂട്ടിലൈസ് ചെയ്യാം, അതേപോലെ പബ്ലിക് ഹെൽത്ത് പ്രോഗ്രാംസിൽ എങ്ങനെയാണ് ജീനോമിക്സ് പുതിയ പുതിയ കാര്യങ്ങൾ ഷേപ്പ് ചെയ്യുന്നത്, അതിനെ പറ്റിയിട്ട്?
Okay. First of all, thanks for the program and Dr. Raju, thanks for the question. സൂചിപ്പിച്ചതുപോലെ തന്നെ കേരളത്തെ സംബന്ധിച്ചിടത്തോളം വളരെ പ്രധാനപ്പെട്ട പ്രതീക്ഷ നൽകുന്ന ഒന്നാണ് ജീനോമിക് സ്റ്റഡി. ബിക്കോസ് കേരള പോപ്പുലേഷൻ ഈസ് സംതിങ് യുനീക്ക്, ബിക്കോസ് വി ഹാവ്, as Dr. Santhosh described, that Kerala have a unique geography, climate, and also that so many other peculiarities. That is why, as far as India is concerned, we are number one as far as the health is concerned. But still, if you look carefully, Kerala have a lot of questions to be solved. Because even though generally our public health, general health is very much best out of the country, but we have marginalized people already behind the general trend, and also the aging population, they are going, and we have a lot of both sides, both infectious disease and also non-infectious disease. We have always have a threat of both sides. We have a lot of problem always, every year we are facing, and we are spending a lot of money what we have earned from our job, and we are spending for health care. That's also improving. As far as the expenditure side is concerned, Kerala people are spending much higher rate than others. So if you consider, if you can reduce this disease burden, definitely that will be the best thing the Kerala people can do, that we are expecting. But as far as the public health is concerned, it is not only as far as the disease, but actually it starts from general health. Here, as far as the each Vinod suggests that they are unique. Even the twins, once they develop, their metabolism can be different. When they are taking the food, how they metabolize, how they absorb, all these things are differ. So nutrition is one of the aspects. How the person interact with these aspects is very important. But and again, the susceptibility of each individual to infection. Once there is, the organism may be inside our body or outside. And Kerala people are exposed to the whole global, the people are traveling to and fro. Anytime, any agent or infective agent, virus, bacteria, anything can reach. But how the people are interacting or with this infection is important. So susceptibility of each individual to this, that may actually, there are missing gaps, no information, much of the information we need to gather how it is happening. So if we want to get that information, definitely we want to use the molecular level or genomic level data to interpret how the persons are reacting to a situation differently. അപ്പോൾ അതുകൊണ്ട് തന്നെ ഈ ഓരോ നമ്മുടെ കേരളത്തിലെ ആളുകളും ഈ ഇത്തരം ഒരു ചാലഞ്ച് വരുമ്പോൾ അതിനോട് പ്രതികരിക്കുന്നത് ഏത് തരത്തിൽ വ്യത്യസ്തമാവുന്നു എന്നുള്ളത് തിരിച്ചറിയുക എന്നുള്ളത് പബ്ലിക് ഹെൽത്തിൽ വളരെ പ്രധാനപ്പെട്ട ഒരു കാര്യമാണ്. പക്ഷെ അത് ചെയ്യണമെങ്കിൽ നമുക്ക് ഇന്ന് ജനറലായിട്ട് കിട്ടുന്ന ഒരു ഡാറ്റ, മോർബിഡിറ്റി ഡാറ്റ കൊണ്ട് മാത്രം പോരാ. പക്ഷേ മോളിക്യൂൾ ലെവലിലും അതേപോലെ തന്നെ സെല്ലുലാർ ലെവലിലുള്ള ഡാറ്റ ഉണ്ടെങ്കിൽ മാത്രമേ നമുക്കിത് താരതമ്യം ചെയ്ത് പഠിക്കാൻ കഴിയും. മറ്റൊന്ന്, ഇപ്പം നോൺ കമ്മ്യൂണിക്കബിൾ ഡിസീസ് ആണെങ്കിൽ പോലും നമ്മുടെ എങ്ങനെയാണ് ശരീരത്തിനകത്തുള്ള ഈ പ്രോസസ്സ് നടന്നുകൊണ്ടിരിക്കുന്നുണ്ട്, അതിലുള്ള വേരിയേഷൻ എങ്ങനെ എന്ന കാര്യങ്ങളൊക്കെ പഠിക്കും. ഇപ്പോൾ ഒക്കെ പുതിയതായിട്ട് കടന്നു വരുന്ന ചില കാര്യങ്ങളൊക്കെ തന്നെ നമ്മൾ 1-2 വയസ്സിലൊക്കെ ഉണ്ടാകുന്ന ചാലഞ്ചസ് അല്ലെങ്കിൽ അവരുണ്ടാകുന്ന വിവിധ തരത്തിലുള്ള ഈ അനുഭവങ്ങളാണ് വാസ്തവത്തിൽ ലെയ്റ്റർ ലൈഫിൽ ഈ നമുക്ക് നോൺ കമ്മ്യൂണിക്കബിൾ ഡിസീസൊക്കെ ആയിട്ട് മാറുന്നു എന്ന തരത്തിലാണ് പലപ്പോഴും ഇന്നത്തെ പഠനങ്ങളൊക്കെ കാണിക്കുന്നത്. അപ്പോൾ whenever there is some challenges, how the body respond to that challenges may be later life, it can develop into some organ failure or disease condition. So the process also, we need this much data. For both sides, if we want to improve our nutritional status or environmental status, we need a lot of regarding the information regarding the different microbes in and around the environment, and also we need to improve their the crop culture, the different taratil. If we can genetically modified foods, definitely if it is more nutritious and more cheaper than whatever available, this thing can be better option for us, because then that side also should be improved. And as far as Vinod mentioned, as far as the treatment, diagnosis and treatment, public health always early diagnosis is very important. So in the early diagnosis, most of the screening program, we can identify at the molecular or the cellular level or this genome level. All these tests help us to identify the conditions at the earliest possible time. And definitely if you know the susceptibility, and if you know there is a chance and there is genetic predisposition, definitely we can take preventive measures. We can avoid some of the challenges or some allergens or risk, or some can be avoided, or can develop some antibody or some resistance against this thing. So any information, personalized information regarding the susceptibility and different reaction to different situation is very important as far as the public health is concerned. But at present, even now we have general information, but this specific information is lacking. So what we need a data center. We have to collect the data for a long time basis, and we have to correlate it with what our experience. Then definitely it will be very helpful as far as the public health is concerned. One more thing, there is public health, there is a threat, because all this technology can be misused, because all this organism can be manipulated, and any time you may have a lot of, even maybe it is accidentally escaped from the laboratory or is purposefully spreading. All such things also is important, because it can happen, the science is beyond our control. But the only thing what we can do, we should have a strong basis to capture any such changes at the earliest point, and whatever we can do possible to respond to that. That also we need people with experience, people with the trained manpower, all these equipments and facilities. So in Kerala, actually it's a good initiative. The government is taking that initiative is far in front of our India government. We have started, we are the first center, and another thing is we are collaborating with different institutions. That's also is important because all these institutions have an idea what is happening. They can definitely contribute to the whole system. That is one of another unique things in Kerala. Massive program, everybody join together. So all this help in public health.
Yeah. Thanks, Dr. Mubarack. So now I'll shift the focus to a bit of literature and culture lens. So my question will be to Sam. So you are an engineer who got into genomics, right? So for the public here, what are some of the books that you recommend reading about genomics? It can be fiction, non-fiction, which can interest them to understand how it is important for a human, right? So if there are a couple of literary articles, something which comes to your mind.
Sure. I mean, there are a large number of books in genomics, and depending on the area of your interest, you can look at The Gene by Siddhartha Mukherjee, The $1,000 Genome. If you're more interested about health, there are a few books by Eric Topol, which are very good. And for clinicians especially, Eric Topol's books are very good. But more importantly, I think we need to sort of try to understand why the genomic data, and learning a little bit of genomics, or even a little more of genomics is very important to each one of us. It's not like some esoteric subject that you can look at if you want to. It is really a matter of life and death. Look at what Dr. Vinod said, a simple statement that approximately 5% of the Indians are born with a serious genetic disease. Right? Here we are not talking about the non-communicable diseases or other things that come over the life course. We are talking about some serious genetic mutation that significantly affects the life of the child. And that means the problems for the family, the problems for the society. Now, this can be eliminated to a large extent by a simple test called carrier screening. So a couple, before they decide to have a child, should do carrier screening. It should be made mandatory. Now, the decision on what you will do after you get the data is personal. Nobody, the government or nobody else should say that you should do A, B, C. But at least make it sure that you're aware. You're aware of what are the serious problems your child will have or might have. Very high probability of having. I know it's a very sensitive subject because recently, a few months back, the Dubai government had made it mandatory for all couples to do carrier screening before they have a child. And I didn't think too much about it, but when I saw that, I was happy that, okay, they're doing something that will reduce the burden of the genetic disease. And I posted it in my LinkedIn saying like, hey, this is a great thing that Dubai has done. Maybe India should do it. I was so amazed over the next couple of weeks. I was like, so much negative feeling, so much anger at what I had said, which surprised me. People calling me names. People who know me often call me names. That is understandable. But here, people who don't know me are calling me names, right? So what I was trying to say is that is nothing wrong with them. The fault was mine because I should have thought through a little bit more on how people will react when they hear something like that, right? Because you think suddenly that, oh, my data will be known to the government. They might force me to abort my child, or there might be other stigma of having a child with a genetic disease. So so much of those worries. So though I would recommend carrier screening, I should have qualified that by saying the data should be private. It should be available only to the couple, and they should have the freedom to take what decision they want. And again, that is not a new model that we have to think through. The Jewish community in Israel adopted this about 12 years back, and they've been able to reduce many diseases to a large extent. 70–80% eradication of serious diseases have been accomplished. So India with a 5% burden, 5% burden again might look small, but we make about 26 million children a year. So 5% comes out to a large number of children, which are definite to have a serious genetic disease. So I think literature, arts, all are important, but I think our life, our family, our society is very, very much more important. And so each one of you have to take the effort to make sure that this personalized medicine can be really made advantage of.
Just to add to that entire narrative which Sam mentioned, right? Because genetic screening is becoming mandatory by some governments, and should genetic kundali be the next thing, right? So I'll put that question to Dr. Vinod, wherein we as a country, we still marry within our communities, say same religion, almost same kind of location, right? Malabar, even Middle Kerala and Travancore. So we typically marry within our communities. So for India as a country, what do you think should be some at a policy level? What can really act well, especially in the screening of genetic diseases? And you have worked with Calicut Medical College in multiple screening of diseases, right? So what has been your experience, and what do you think should be a good way to start this?
Yeah, so to broadly put things in perspective, to me, after the discovery of the CT scan, genomic sequencing, or what we call as next generation sequencing, is probably the most impactful discovery in medical sciences. And that would necessarily mean over the next 1 decade, the application of genomics is not just in clinical sciences, but also extending to apparently normal individuals, because there is value in sequencing apparently normal individuals. And given this background, there are already countries doing population scale genomes. That means sequence everybody in the country, with the idea that you can use this information for healthcare decision making and making it better. Early diagnosis, screening, and treating them better. In this particular concept, yes, it might take many more years for India to reach to that point in time, because we are pretty much talking about a country with a per capita GDP of around $2,200, while many more countries who have a per capita GDP of 10,000 or 15,000 are currently doing whole population scale genomes. It is affordable for them, but probably not affordable for us. But even given that fact, at least people who can afford to do that, in India there are approximately 2% of people who can afford to do that, should start doing it, at least for their own benefits. And we have seen that there is value in doing it, both in the clinical setting as well as in the normal individual setting. In the clinical setting, we have some genetic disorders which are very prevalent in, for example, Kerala, and for that matter, North Kerala. Good example being primary immunodeficiency. We have a quite large cohort built in Calicut Medical College, and we are at the verge of also piloting out a newborn screening. Newborn screening necessarily means that you can sequence or you can do a test, a molecular test on a newborn when they're born. They're apparently normal at birth, but you can predict diseases which are treatable in that child, so that the child would have a perfectly normal life going forward.
Thanks, Dr. Vinod. So my next question will be to Dr. Mubarack. So on popular culture, cinema also shapes a lot of narrative, right? So are there any interesting cinema or any popular narrative that you want to kind of add to this entire conversation? അതേപോലെ തന്നെ ഫോറൻസിക്കിൽ നമുക്ക് ഒരുപാട് ജീനോമിക്സിന് യൂസേജ് ഉണ്ട് അതേപോലെ അപ്പോൾ ഇതിനെ പറ്റിയിട്ട് എന്തെങ്കിലും നമ്മുടെ പബ്ലിക്കിന് വേണ്ടിയിട്ടൊരു ചെറിയൊരു
എപ്പോഴും സയൻസ് പുതുതായിട്ടുള്ള പുതിയ കാര്യങ്ങളൊക്കെ വരുമ്പോൾ ഒരുപാട് പ്രചരണങ്ങൾ, അങ്കലാപ്പുകൾ, സംശയങ്ങൾ ഒക്കെ ജനങ്ങളുടെ ഇടയിലുണ്ടാവും. സ്വാഭാവികമായിട്ടും ജനങ്ങളുടെ ഇടയിലുള്ള ഇത്തരം ഈ ധാരണകളൊക്കെ തന്നെ എല്ലാ തരത്തിലും ബാധിക്കും. അതിൻ്റെ പ്രോഗ്രസ്സിനെ ബാധിക്കും. ചിലതൊക്കെ തന്നെ പ്രശ്നങ്ങൾ ഉണ്ടാക്കും, തടസ്സങ്ങൾ ഉണ്ടാക്കും. എനി newer scientific methodology always having this sort of problem. The people's perception is one of the important things. So shaping this perception, definitely the art, books, literature, film, everything is very important. As far as the genome, all this data is also concerned. ഇപ്പോൾ മലയാളത്തിൽ തന്നെ ഒരു സിനിമ വന്നിരുന്നു, കാലചക്രം എന്നാണ് ആ സിനിമയുടെ പേരുണ്ടായിരുന്നത്. കാലചക്രം എന്നുള്ളൊരു സിനിമയുടെ കഥ പൂർണ്ണമായിട്ടും കാരണം നമ്മുടെ പ്രധാനപ്പെട്ട നടന്മാരൊക്കെ അഭിനയിച്ച ഒരു സിനിമയായിരുന്നു. ആ സിനിമക്കകത്ത് പറയുന്നത് ഹിറ്റ്ലറുടെ ജീൻ ഇവിടെ കൊണ്ടുവന്നിട്ട് ഒരാളെ വികസിപ്പിച്ചെടുക്കുകയാണ്. അപ്പോൾ അയാളുടെ അപാരമായ ഹിറ്റ്ലറുടെ കഴിവൊക്കെ ആ കൊച്ചിലേക്ക് കൊടുക്കുകയും അത് വികസിപ്പിച്ചെടുക്കുകയും ലോകത്തിൻ്റെ തന്നെ കൺട്രോൾ നേടിയെടുക്കാൻ കഴിയുന്ന തരത്തിലേക്ക് അതിനെ ഉപയോഗിക്കണം. അപ്പോൾ എങ്ങനെ അത് എന്തൊക്കെ കുഴപ്പങ്ങൾ ഉണ്ടാക്കാൻ വേണ്ടി പോകുന്നുണ്ട്, ഈ ടെക്നോളജി എങ്ങനെയാണ് അതിനകത്ത് അപ്ലൈ ചെയ്യുന്നത് എന്ന തരത്തിലൊക്കെ മലയാളത്തിൽ തന്നെ വന്ന ഒരു സിനിമ ഈ തരത്തിൽ വാസ്തവത്തിൽ ഈ ഇതിൻ്റെ നമ്മുടെ ഈ എങ്ങനെയാണ് ജനറ്റിക് ഈ സാധനങ്ങളൊക്കെ ട്രാൻസ്ഫർ ചെയ്യുകയും അത് ഉപയോഗപ്പെടുത്തുകയും and misuse of whatever this technology that it is discussed in a Malayalam movie. അടുത്ത് വന്ന മറ്റൊരു സിനിമയാണ് ദാറ്റ് ഈസ് ഏഴാം അറിവ്, തമിഴിലുള്ള മൂവിയായിരുന്നു. ആ മൂവിയിൽ ഉള്ളത് there is one story that the Chinese people want to get hold of one ancient saint, a Buddhist who have some bodhisattva or bodhisattva. He has some superhuman capability of martial arts and also some medical these things, all these things, but it is lost. But Chinese people want to get it again, and they are searching for the gene lineage of this particular bodhisattva, and they have done a lot of work and then finally found that it is in India. So in between, actually that person and some students working here in genomic area, they also having this idea, so they get lost. But if the Chinese people got this gene or this gene lineage, it may be harmful to the whole world. That is why the other people are trying to protect. But actually, one villain, very good villain, he came and he got him, that person, he take him to China, and they have done some 7-day rituals or some sort of this thing. And after that, he developed the whole ancient capabilities, all sort of things, because all this gives that there is some genetic relationship with all our capacity, capabilities, and it can be hidden and it can be regenerated, all sort of things. They are actually discuss about this gene lineage and all these things. All such films are widely discussed, and all this gives some misconception regarding all sort of things. But this popular narration, I don't know how it can affect, but it is popularized how these things, the power of this sort of technology, actually it is popularizing. Maybe have more film. It's in mind that is all these films. Actually the discussion in the general public can create a lot of misunderstanding. But we have to, because only this fiction, science fiction, and he said that in Robert Koch also have some novel regarding, yes, I'm not that in me.
So I think so there are a lot of things happening in fiction side. So if you are interested, you can go to these books which are fiction, non-fiction. So I'll go to the next set of questions, but we'll definitely open the next 5 minutes for a public interaction where you can ask questions to the panelists. So my question will be to Sam. This will be on a global level. So how are other initiatives adding value to genomics? So one is UK Biobank is one of the largest initiatives in genomics. So can we create something similar in India? That will be the first question. Second would be in digital biology, where what you are saying is, can you create biofactories, biofermenters, which adds a lot of value to bioeconomy. So what are your thoughts on creating a bioeconomy in Kerala?
Sure. Genomic sequencing, I mean, came into the mainstream over the last maybe 15-20 years. And unfortunately, India has been very behind. There has been initiatives by like Vinod from the IGIB. Dr. Vinod was one of the pioneers. We have few people like us from the industry also did some work. But still, it has been a very minuscule amount of work if you really compare with the efforts happening across the world. So we are very behind. So Kerala has taken a big initiative with the Kerala Genome Data Center, but still it is a very a small step if you really look at the global level of what work is going on. So if India really needs to build up a bioeconomy and really get into the front of this, it will have to put in a lot of effort, not just on sequencing, but sequencing will be a very important thing, and getting the enough data. We are very strong on software and artificial intelligence and all that, but those can be of use only if you have the right data. And as Dr. Mubarack said, not just the genetic data, all the other clinical and physiological data associated with the person should also be there along with the genetic data for us to make sense out of it, to be able to do new things. Now we have been concentrating more on human health, but as Raju was asking, it's not just human health alone. Human health is a high priority to us, so we have a tendency to focus on that a lot, rightly so. But there are much larger problems also that we need to keep in mind that we are facing. Practically everybody except Trump knows that global warming is a serious issue, right? And that has to be handled without just closing your eyes and pretending that that is not there. Now it didn't happen all of a sudden. It happened over the last 200 years, and that is all created by us only. All the progress that we got through the Industrial Revolution has been driven by chemistry and physics. So, or the other way, physics and chemistry. So physics and chemistry contributed to the Industrial Revolution in the last 200 years, which is very good. That is why from about 1 billion people in the world, we are about 7 billion people or 8 billion people now. And our quality of life has changed dramatically if you look at it every year or every few years. But it has its cost. Why? Because the chemical mode of manufacturing creates a lot of effluents and a lot of carbon dioxide, a lot of other gases which push up the temperature. Now this can be solved by biology. So the third major science that is this century is going to be the century of biology. So biological means can sort out a lot of these problems. So we can move most of our chemical based manufacturing into biomanufacturing. How? By using the cell as a factory. Nature has given us one of the best machines as a factory itself. So there is nothing in the universe that can beat the complexity of a cell. And cells are like so many types of cells. So if you look at brain cells and many other 200 odd cell types in the human body alone. But they are more complex. But we much easier take the cells of microbes, and if you know the genetic sequence well of whatever you want to make, you can get the microbe to bake it for you. And then you can have large fermenters by which the strain of the microbes, just like നമ്മൾ വീട്ടിൽ തൈര് ഉണ്ടാക്കുന്ന പോലെ, അതൊക്കെ ഒരു വിധത്തിൽ ഒരു synthetic biology ആയിരുന്നു. It was done in a very rudimentary way, and the productivity was less. But the same concept, if you are able to do it artificially, instead of just making the yeast or the bacteria make one or two products that it naturally makes, you can make it produce other things. And we are already doing that very successfully in medicine. Most of the antibodies in the world are now manufactured using cell lines. Now, but that can be moved into making sugar, making any chemical, making any perfume, making all the thousands of products that we have over the next 20, 30 years will be moved to biomanufacturing. So that is why one of our hopes in Kerala, gene bank, the whole gene bio bank that Kerala has hopefully will become very useful, not only for Kerala and India, but as a very good database for the rest of the world to take advantage of this genetic information and to create new products. So that is a vision.
Sounds like fiction, right? But it's becoming a reality. So the last session was about AI in writing, which we speak, when we came, we were hearing it. So my question will be to Dr. Vinod. How is this AI, ML and generative AI shaping up research in genomics? So what will happen in the next 5 years? Because every day new models are coming up. You talk about OpenAI, Sora, and so many things coming up, right? Llama models. So how is it going to make discovering new diagnostics, discovering new molecules faster, or will it have adverse implications?
So artificial intelligence and machine learning is something that we routinely already use in genomic analysis. I mean, genomic analysis has become more complicated than humans can handle anymore. Now going forward, there are now foundational models based on DNA, things like BERT, which are already open source, which can essentially understand the patterns in genomics and be able to discover patterns from genomics per se. Now this has also rapidly revolutionized our understanding of how the genome functions. While we tell that we understand how to sequence a genome, we still do not understand as much on how the genome functions. Going forward, I think these foundational models will do a quantum leap in our ability to design new genomes which don't exist yet in nature.
So we have another 20 minutes left. So I'll open this floor to questions from the audience.
Sir, all kudos to you for providing a valuable information like everybody's pharmacodynamics is variant. It varies from person to person. It is simply because of the fact that SNP, single nucleotide polymorphism varies. That is why what I gather is that is why pharmacodynamics of every person is vary from person to person. My question is regarding how AI can be effectively used like the last year chemistry Nobel for AlphaFold for deciphering out proteins. So what is the oncoming years of generative AI in unfolding all cellular genomic secrets? The riddles of genomics, sickle cell anemia, Huntington's disease, everything could be deciphered out by perhaps by ChatGPT or generative AI because the last year AlphaFold done so. So are you optimistic, sir, are you optimistic about the AlphaFold-like algorithms deciphering out more outcomes in complex genomic riddles? That is my question. To Mubarack sir, there is no need for cloning Hitler. It is already here.
So coming back to your specific question on how artificial intelligence is going to accelerate this discovery, to put in perspective, today what we know is individual functions of genes in isolation. So when I say I have a ATP7B mutation or a BRCA1 mutation, I know the BRCA1 mutation will predispose me to, say, breast and ovarian cancer, and in males prostate and pancreatic cancer also. But I still do not know how is this going to impact or be impacted by the rest of the variations in the genome. Or in other words, I'm looking at a very focused question and answering a one-to-one answer. But biology does not function that way. Biology functions by the combinations of mutations put together. Now what artificial intelligence will allow us to do that is to exactly be able to discover this, because this is humanly impossible to do given the enormous number of permutations and combinations of variations that can happen. But these patterns can now be identified by artificial intelligence methods.
Although geographically we were covered by all the mountains and stuff, we had a very open coast. So we had like Arab traders who created the Mapila community, and then we had French, Dutch settlement. So we had a lot of different diverse genomes coming into Kerala. So how can we say that we are unique? So aren't we most diverse compared to all the other states in India? So that is one question. And the second follow-up question is regarding the security of all these genomes that we are collecting. So why? Because we have a system where all the data are available. So I just want to understand how secure this is, because this is a funny thing, but again, a few years back, I had a friend who told that, do you know what? Nayars have the most Aryan genes. It is proved, so that is why we are so and so. So these kind of newses and all are spreading around. And when this data is available to the public, how do we control these kind of misspreads and everything? So these are the two questions.
Sure. Yeah, so let me answer the first question. Maybe the word unique was not the right word when I said the Kerala population. No population in the world is unique. But what I was trying to convey was that because of the ancient nature of our population and the fact that, like you said, many people from the last 2000 years have come and mixed with our genome, we have a good diversity and good variety of genomic data, and a lot of that is very unique. So in that genetic variation, no, the genome is not unique, but for everybody has the same genes. But we have different, genes are basically letters, you can see them as letters. So let us say one gene is like 50,000 letters. So in the 43rd letter, you have an A while I have a T, something like that. So those differences. So not just Kerala, India per se has a lot of unique genetic data, very unique genetic variants. So Kerala, because of this, the ancient population, and because of the Western Ghats and various reasons, and also because some of our social practices, we tend to have a large number of variants which may not be available elsewhere. So, and many of those variants will be very useful for you to get additional information. So that is why I am saying Kerala genomic data will be of big value. Second, what your question was about? Security. Okay. Security is, I know, is a big worry, right? So I won't handle or go into the security of the typical data system security. That is your credit card, you have all your other things. So let us focus on the one part of the question. You are worried about other people seeing your data, right? and what will happen? Well, if you are anonymized, it saves a lot of the worries, because when the genetic data is stored, the person's details need not be there or should not be there. It should be just one number or something. So it will be very, very difficult to identify you from that. But still, that is not 100% true. Genetic data can be used to identify the person even if it is anonymized. It's a long story, but you can look at interesting books like The Golden State Killer and many other ways, like, many old cases have been solved now using genetics. Even though the person's genomic data was not there in the system, the murderer typically won't give his data to be put in a database, right? But even if his far distant relatives are in there, they were able to track and using that and find the killer. So those type of small risk is there, but if you're not a murderer and you don't have that much to worry about, your data, nobody is going to make too much advantage of you or create problems for you. And most of the people use this data in a what do you call that, Vinod? Aggregated manner. The data is very useful for pharma companies or other people in a more of an aggregated manner than as like you or me or Vinod the data. So, but if there are, let us say, like you said about the Nayars. So let us say we have got 10,000 Nayars genomes. And then you have a lot of things you can see. 60% of these people have this variant. That is why, they drink a lot, or, whatever other characteristics that you can find. So, but that is more like a joke, but you can find like, okay, they are more susceptible to, like Dr. Vinod was saying, they are more susceptible to heart disease, or they are more susceptible to diabetes. So those are type of insights that you can get from this data. And we shouldn't worry about too much about what people will do with the genetic data, because so much genetic data, human genetic data is already available in the public, right? The UK Biobank, which Dr. Raju was saying, has about a million people's genomic data. And out of that, nearly 9% is of Indian origin. So we think, Indian data should not go out. Indian data should be, should be kept under lock and key. Indian data is available everywhere, and we can all access data from UK Biobank just by putting in an application and explaining what project you want to do. My company has taken genomic data from UK Biobank and developed tests for predicting heart disease of Indians. Predicting the susceptibility. So it is overblown, the worry about the security of your data.
So Sam,
can I add something on this? Only just to say that. Only thing is, when the society is hierarchical and when some group wants to dominate on others, they will use any information for their justification for this thing. This genome data, biological data, all these things are always notoriously is misused like this. So Aryan supremacy, like this also. Here this data also may have misuse. So general awareness and the education of the public is very important, because as far as what we learn from the genetic data is actually 99.9% of the information regarding this common. Everybody is same. The variation is very negligible, 0.01% maybe have. Actually, most of the human beings, Homo sapiens, are in the same this thing. But that message should be conveyed to the community, and that have some social, political implication. That's also very important. The other one, I'm not that much confident or the optimistic regarding the safety and security of the data, because nowadays, if the data can be used by some cloud or some big companies or something, if there is no much control over the government and sort of public system, definitely you may get somebody is coming to your house or some phone call that your data have this much of problem and you have to come and do these sort of things. They can be commercially misused. Already we have, they will run a lot of tests and they will identify some variations and it can be misinterpreted, and they may say that you have that risk, this risk, without that risk, and your doing, because most of these tests, some of them will come to you, to your personally, to your home, and they mobilize you for the testing and these biomarkers and sort of things. And if you do the test, some variations will be there. So that such things should be careful, very much social implication is there. So it should be, general awareness is very important.
We'll take the next question, but
Yes.
I think on the ethics side, right, most of the companies have compliances in place wherein security is kind of looking at from HIPAA, GDPR compliance. I'll take your question, yeah.
Yeah, so Sam said about how environmental repercussions after the chemical industry was very grievous. How biomedical or biology can change that was my question.
What is the first part? I didn't hear.
So environmental repercussions are huge with the chemical industry, and how will it change with the biological?
Yeah. That is by completely moving away from the chemical way of manufacturing. We can't make any changes to the chemical way of manufacturing and get rid of the pollutants. The pollutants can be avoided by moving from the chemical mode of manufacturing to a biological mode of manufacturing, where you make the cells, make the product that you want. So the output will only be water. So there will not be any typical effluents which are normally coming from any chemical process. And I would like to add one more point which I missed for the earlier friend who asked. Tell your friend that the Aryan genes are not that good. The Nair genes are much better.
So we conclude the session. If there are not much questions, I'll just summarize the entire panel today. So we started with Kerala Genome Data Center, which is an initiative by Government of Kerala, starting an exclusive data center which will look at data from animal, plant, microbial and human genomics. Currently, we're looking at some of these diseases in Kerala like sickle cell anemia and some of public health issues also, One Health. And we had questions on how clinically genomics as a new specialty is adding a lot of value for a lot of diseases, especially chronic conditions, diabetes, pharmacogenomics, which looks into how a drug will have effect on your body so that the right kind of medications can be given. Genomics has also a lot of applications in cancer biology. For example, precision medications are coming up, CAR T cell therapy is coming up. We also looked at how genomics is adding a lot of narrative in literature and cinema. For example, we have seen a lot of books written about fiction, non-fiction on genomics. We have seen movies being made with genomics as themes. And we'll always also start seeing, since mainstream public, it becomes more popular, we'll keep on seeing more things. The last part was, again, on digital biology, which Sam mentioned about how we can use digital manufacturing to augment the current set of manufacturing. And we will urge to take this session wherein for researchers, we are opening up new avenues where every life science graduate in Kerala or India, we have grants being made for sequencing. So if you are a life science graduate, Kerala Genome Data Center will definitely work with you. And we have some exciting more sessions coming up. So thanks, you were a wonderful audience. And I thank my panel, Sam, Dr. Mubarack and Dr. Vinod. Thank you so much.